You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron, live with Aidan Hutchinson.
Welcome back, everyone, to more of the Greeks Gridiron. I am Aidan Hutchinson, and on this beautiful April 5th, 2022 morning, I am putting together my preview for the Jacksonville Jaguars as they are currently on the clock in my preview series, where we go over 3 different players I would like to see the Jaguars go after in this year's NFL draft. So, my Jaguars fans, make sure you comment down below. Who would you like to see the Jaguars go after in this year's draft? And of course, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on all the other draft previews I'll be doing as we get closer and closer to this year's NFL draft. So, for the Jacksonville Jaguars, they got a ton of selections to make in this year's draft, a grand total of 12 picks, a ton of potential talent going to be infused into this roster to help lift them from picking from number 1 3 straight years in a row. Now, with the Jaguars and how I'm doing their video, they have the number 1 overall selection, and I feel like everywhere I look, Aiden Hutchinson is going to be the guy that the Jacksonville Jaguars select. Every single mock draft has the Jaguars taking him. So with that in mind, I figured it would be kind of lazy of me to just go ahead and pick Aiden Hutchinson as their first round selection, and it would be silly of me to go with anyone else because it seems like everyone's kind of in agreement that that's what they're going to do. Not to say that they can't surprise anyone, but it seems like almost like a foregone conclusion at this point that the Jags are getting Aiden. So I decided what I'll do is I'll do a day 3 pick, a day 2 to 3 pick, and then we'll talk about their second round selection at pick number 33. I feel like it adds a little bit more interest to the conversation as opposed to just me ending the video off with, and number 1, Aiden Hutchinson. He's an excellent talent, probably going to be the first pick in the draft, blah, blah, blah. So with that in mind, the day 3 selection that I have picked out here for the Jacksonville Jaguars is going to be at the linebacker position, interestingly enough, DeMarco Jackson out of Appalachian State. The reason I have linebacker selected here is not because I think it's a super pressing need. They did bring in Foyesade Oluokun, which is an excellent addition to the team. The guy was a monster tackler all over the field. I think he had 150 some odd tackles or so this past season. So they've already kind of committed to upgrading the linebacking core. And I think DeMarco Jackson is an excellent late day 3 guy that you can go after to just kind of bolster the group just a little bit more. Hence why I have him as the day 3 guy. You're picking him as more of a roster filler, and that's about what you're trying to get out of him at the very least to kick off his career. Now, he's excellent against the run. That's where he really shines, and that's where his game really looks best up on tape. And on top of that, he showed he can generate pressure. He was able to get 6 sacks this past season, and he has excellent speed and change of direction. He is a definitive sideline-to-sideline type of guy, which is always something you want, especially in today's evolving NFL, where the passing game just seems to be dominating everything that offenses are doing. You need those linebackers that can chase people down left to right side of the field. Now, there are some cons to his game. A lot of people seem to be concerned with his play strength, but he is a young guy. He'll have time to fill himself out, bulk himself up, put on some more muscle mass. He's also not great in zone coverage, which seems to be a glaring issue to his game. And he does have 40 missed tackles last 2 seasons. Whether that boils down to just poor angles or maybe just he's praised for being a fairly good tackler, but he has so many misses. So I think it's his pursuit and angling that needs to be worked on a little bit, and that's more coaching than anything else. So with that in mind, there's a lot of upside. He has all the physical traits that you want to see, and I think ultimately a solid day 3 selection and a guy who can just fill out the depth at the linebacker position, because quite honestly for the Jaguars, listen, I'm a Colts fan. This is no hate. You guys can use every bit of talent you can on that roster to start building a team around Trevor Lawrence. And I'll say this right now too. Again, I'm a Colts fan, but I'm rooting for you, Jacksonville. I love Trevor Lawrence. I loved him in college, and I'm really excited for him now that you guys were able to move past this Urban Meyer situation, and you now have a good head coach in is it Peterson, Doug Peterson. I almost just said his name wrong there. I'm glad you guys have a coach like that to help mold Trevor Lawrence into what he should be in the NFL, because last year was an absolute clown show and you guys showed that yourselves. So for my day 2 to 3 selection, because I've seen this guy as high as the 3rd round. I've also seen some projections of him being around like the 4th and at worst like 5th. The offensive line still needs some work. You guys lost some people in this year's free agency period. And with the offensive line, my idea for this selection here was versatility, someone who could fit in a number of different places. And I like the idea of the Jaguars going after left tackle Tyler Smith out of Tulsa. This guy is an absolute mauler in the run game. And while he is a left tackle, he's projected to end up being a guard in the NFL based off his frame size. He's not necessarily the longest of offensive linemen, which concerns some people about him playing on the outside. And I feel like guard is a position of need, whether it's on the left or the right side that you guys decide to plug him in at. Choice is up to the coaches. But with someone who is so effective in the run game and you guys having James Robinson there out of the backfield, I feel like bringing in a guy like Tyler Smith who will bulldoze somebody over if necessary will only help make Robinson more productive and make Trevor Lawrence's job easier. The guy is also an absolute monster. The dude's 6'5", 325 pounds. He is big and he is as bad as his game tape shows. And on top of that, he only allowed 2 sacks this past season. Very effective in the pass game. I mean, the guy overall is a physical specimen, and that's really where his game shines the most. The cons, though, really come down to just poor technique and things that can honestly be taught and coached in the NFL as long as he's willing to take to it and be coached up about it. Sloppy hands is something that gets brought up a lot. And just technique overall is a noted issue from every single draft, like scouting network place that I looked at. That kept coming up in everyone's thing. So it's kind of a universal thing. There's also, again, the mention of him needing to probably switch to an offensive guard position instead of a left tackle position. That's going to slow his development and ultimately make him a longer term project. But again, day 2 to 3 guy, if he ends up starting for you, excellent. If it takes him a year to kind of get himself rounded out and he's just rotating in until he's ready, that's also fine. He's not this is, again, he's going to be like a 3rd, maybe 4th round pick, something like that. You don't necessarily need him to produce day 1. But other than that, penalties aside, he needs to get his discipline together. That's going to be also something that, again, you can coach out of. The upside on Tyler Smith is awesome. The downsides really are just like better coaching and, and having a good group around him to show him the ropes, essentially. You can fix a lot of his issues and he can end up being a legit starting guard in the NFL. And that's what a lot of people seem to think. It's just he has a lot of like coaching based issues that need to be fixed and pulled out of him. Now, for my final pick, this is the day 2 pick number 33 selection. Now, I don't necessarily know if this player is going to be there or not at this point because I've seen him projected slightly higher in the 1st round in a handful of mock drafts, but I've also seen him not in the 1st round at all in like an early 2nd round pick. If they need to trade up, the Jaguars have the picks to move around and go after a guy, but I'm looking at versatility for this draft for the Jaguars. You want players that can do multiple things if necessary, and I think that Michigan safety Daxton Hill is that guy. Safety position, not necessarily super impressive over there in Jacksonville. And Daxton Hill, he played a ton out of the slot, so whether you need him to play as just like a regular safety position in the free spot, or if you maybe need him to drop down and get into that slot position, or he played a handful, I think he has like on average about 100 snaps or so within the box as well. He's played in a lot of different areas on the defense, and he can bring more versatility to the team, and he can do more for the team if necessary. Couple that with the fact that he has that 4.38 speed. He's excellent in pursuit and finding the ball and getting after it, making the tackle and the play. I believe he had 77 tackles or 57 tackles, one of those two. I didn't write the number down, but his tackles, very notable for a safety there. He did an excellent job this past season, really breaking out and making a name for himself, and had an excellent combine to boot. So it sounds like this is a late 1st round, early 2nd round guy. Do I think that he's going to be there at pick 33? Potentially. And if he's not, or there's, the Jaguars are worried that maybe a guy like this is going to be gone based off mock drafts and projections and what they're hearing, they have the capital to trade up and move up and get a guy like this. Again, when you're the Jaguars, you're trying to look at best position available, and you're trying to bring in players who can do multiple things for you to help fill out that roster as much as possible. This is a guy that does that. But not to say that there isn't any cons to his game. He does not have the turnovers that I think you would like from like an elite level safety. That's something that, you know, whether just the lack of opportunities were there or maybe him not capitalizing will remain to be seen once he gets into the NFL. He also needs to add a little bit more strength to his game. He's not necessarily the kind of blow up a guy as a hard hitting type of safety. He's a good tackler, but he's not an explosive tackler. So if he could put on a little bit more muscle mass, build up his play strength a bit, this would really turn him into like a top level safety in the back end. And then couple of that with the fact that he doesn't have a ton of starts in his collegiate career. So his production is limited. His game tape is limited. He's going to have to really prove that the production he had this past season is more than just one really good year of getting an opportunity, which he'll have that opportunity, especially if he ends up on a team like the Jaguars, again, that are trying to fill out their roster. Daxton Hill, I think, would be an excellent guy to have in that back end who can play multiple roles for this Jaguars defense. But that is my draft preview for the Jacksonville Jaguars. My Jags fans, let me know what you guys think again in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.